Hey everyone, it's Lori back again for this little section. I hope you were able to catch uh, Colin and Sam talk about independent live or working independently or location independent living. And I hope that you are, managing to enjoy your day wherever you are and are inspired to join the tribe of entrepreneur hotline. And if you're out there struggling and feeling like you're alone, you're not. So listen to the good people on this journey over the next, until Friday, tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Eastern Time. So you have more than 24 hours to get involved and hear what's happening. And we are compiling the content, curating the content now as I speak so that you will be able to have access to it as a replay. I think it is so much valuable content that you're definitely going to want to look into it. That said, I am going to be rearranging the schedule a little bit because I can see that Colin is going to have some availability, which means I would love for him to come on and jam if he can. And then we can get back to some of these other things that I'm going to do with you in the time that I'm here by myself. So there is a lesson in that, and that is also be able to bob and weave and take advantage of opportunities when you are confronted with them. I think that is a good entrepreneurial motto. So I think until Colin comes in, maybe I'll pull up something to share with you. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to do it over here using my handy phone. Let's see. I spoke yesterday about how there are so many, well, in speaking about these fables, the entrepreneur fables that I section that I was doing or am doing, I was looking at other things that we could connect the dots on. And that was some of looking into some of the myths of entrepreneurship. I thought that could be fun to do. If I can pull it up, it will be fun. First, I got to pull it up. Oh, the challenges. So, what would those be? The myths. Here we go. Actually, maybe shorter. Talk about this. Actually, it seems like I'm trapped in 2015 because I keep doing things from 2015, referencing things from 2015. However, I'm going to talk about this short poem because it's my favorite poem. And on October 8th, which was national, or which is National Poetry Day, or yeah, National Poetry Day in the United States anyway. My favorite poem, and my favorite poem for entrepreneurs in particular, is a poem that is, for a very long time, was known as unknown, but it ended up being John Greenleaf Whittier. So I'm reading this blog post that I have on my LinkedIn profile as repurposed content right here and now. Today is National Poetry Day in the United States, so I thought I would share one of my favorite poems, a poem that has followed me for over 30 years and of which I first discovered who the author was today. That day was October 8th, 2015. It is in the public domain and it is often circulated with no author identification. The poem has helped me get through bad times and reminded me to be grateful during the good ones. It is an extremely good mantra for any entrepreneur. Don't quit, by John Greenleaf Whittier. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile, but you have to sigh. When care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Life is strange with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns. And many a failure comes about when he might have won had he stuck it out. Don't give up, though the pace seems slow. You may succeed with another blow. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt. And you never can tell just how close you are. It may be near when it seems far. So stick to the fight when your heart is hit. It's when things seem worst that you must not quit. Yes, think about that. Don't quit. You have to be able to decide when enough is enough, but you also have to decide when something means something to you of value and of your own decision making process, because you have no control over other people. But when something is important to you, something you've set your sights on, you don't stop when things get rough. That's when you hunker down, or when you push through. I think the idea of pursuing your goals and understanding that that commitment to pursue your goals will test you, and that one of the one of the things that John Webb said yesterday was, it's, doing the difficult thing when easy is available, right? That is an attest to your character, because it's rarely fun to do the difficult things, but the difficult things must be done. So when you have an opt out, when there's a possibility to shirk responsibility, when there's a chance to avoid something that you find a little bit uncomfortable but is necessary, then putting your big girl pants on and going through it rather than avoiding it, and taking care of that action will help you to achieve your goals. So do not quit. Don't give up on yourself. If you need some support, everyone does, then there are communities out there. There are people who are around you who want to support you. There are organizations that are here to support you. And we at the startup, at the Entrepreneur Hotline, in the startup community, in the entrepreneurial world, are here to also support you if you need it. And we are here this week, and we are planning to continue providing you with support for, who knows, or when we establish what that model can look like. We will definitely share it with you, and you will get a chance to join into the community. Don't quit, don't quit, don't quit. Remember that. I should actually write down what the name of it is. Let me give you a comment, because it's such an important poem to to keep saying to yourself, because it has, like I said in the beginning of the original post, it had been over 30 years I had when I had discovered this poem, that I have had a copy of it in, like, the inside cover of my closet, or something, somewhere where I could see it all the time. I used to have it, a poster of it in school, and I I love it. It's called Don't Quit, and I'm sorry about the error, but I'm working on a keyboard from a in a foreign language that I do not know, and I can't see where the punctuation is. So we will do this. Don't quit. And let me see, what was it? That was John Whittier. John, how am I saying that? John Greenleaf would hear. Whittier. That's nice. Probably should have put it up a little bit earlier. I think. So while we're kind of in that spirit or in that vein about what do you do when you have struck a wall, where do you get resources to overcome challenges and barriers, what's out there in your community. By you know, what I do, like many people, I Google. I would go in and I would basically write whatever the sentence is that pops into my head. How do you, uh, where can you get support when you are struggling with creating a process system for your business? Where do you get support when you are struggling with marketing? Where do you get support? Who is available? Et cetera, et cetera. The best way to get support is actually to ask for support because people cannot read your mind and they are busy in their own lives, paying attention to what's happening and dealing with their own struggles, even if they look like they have it all together on social. No one has it all together because that is not the nature of the human experience, as we know. Therefore, it is critical for you to ask for what you want, be clear about it. Um, Ideally, uh, have a framework around it. That's a difficult one, and that will allow you to be able to get what you want because you've been very specific about it, and people have an idea. So if you're reaching out, you know, have a time. Do you have time to speak for X amount of minutes? Do you have, I am looking for some support in this area, or I am having a, a conflict. I am having a weak moment. I could really use, you know, um, I could really use an ear. Do you have time for coffee on this day? Do you have X amount of time for coffee on this day at this place? And another thing is to be specific also about, or to have options. So giving options, are you available on Monday the 30th at 3, or Tuesday between give them a period of time. Actually, that's even better because when it's too specific, then people go back and forth and back and forth, and you end up wasting time. And really, it could be that they're answering the email, they're seeing the email, or they're seeing the text message right before they're going to do something else. So if you happen to be online uh, on your phones at the same time, then you're lucky. Then you can have that conversation in real time. But if you are in an asynchronic conversation, then you need to have some options so that you don't end up going back and forth and wasting time like that. So what I suggest is when you're making a pitch to contact someone that you have a range of time, or you offer them some options within a frame that you are, that you loosely have open, and then nailing down the the time based on what they come back to you with. So if you say, I'm available Friday afternoon between 1 and 3, then they can come back with 2:15 works for me. As opposed to if you say, are you available? You're looking through your schedule. Are you available at 2:15? Then if they're not available at 2:15, you'll either get a no, or you will get a um, I'm not sure. And then, but maybe 10:15, you'll get a lot of questions and a lot of extraneous noise surrounding the thing that you want to do, and the thing that you want to accomplish for them and for you, in terms of, nailing down that commitment of time. Okay, I see Colin is in the room. So Colin, come on in.
Hey Laurie,
Yay.
love the poem. Love the
Thank you.
poem.
Thank you. Yeah,
It was inspirational, man. That was really good. Really good.
it's definitely worth a listen, and
Yeah.
worth a, it's a good, actually, now that we've done this, uh actually getting back into what we talked about a little bit earlier, but now that we've done this, then when we download it, then you'll be able to listen to it. Right? It'll be it'll be written, and it'll be something that you can listen to,
Mm,
and that brings us to like the power of also the mediums. So when you listen to things, like when you read things, it doesn't it doesn't it doesn't work in your brain. It doesn't You don't have that sensory response to reading something that you do to hearing something or
mm.
smelling something, right? So
Well, yeah, I
boom,
think there's
boom.
that's interesting, isn't it? Because there are different modes of learning and stuff like that, and I think having just like we talked about splitting out content, having a multi-dimensional approach to the way that you deliver experiences is critical as well, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think also knowing what works for you as well. So the one thing is what we as entrepreneurs are putting out there, but also to be aware what we like. Like, how do you like it yourself? Like, do you like consuming content? But like, some people don't like to watch videos because they find it distraction. There are time I like video. I like watching live streams. I like seeing people's faces. I like, you know, feeling like I'm talking to them. Like,
Mm,
that's when I started doing these interviews for Entrepreneurial Profiles, the book that I've been working on for 10 years. The idea of integrating video, 10, 11 years ago when I thought about it, was because I wanted to have this feeling like I'm doing this because I'm trying to size us up. So ideally, so that if our heads are about the same size, it feels almost like, you know, that we're looking at each other,
mm,
right? It
mm.
feels like we're more in a real, it feels like we're actually together, as opposed to, if I'm here, there's something wrong with this, and there's something wrong with this, right?
Oh.
Are you avoiding me? Ah!
Oh, quick, go over here so she doesn't see us.
Yes, exactly. How to make somebody paranoid online,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
right?
yeah.
I did one where I think with Gail, I had, because um I was on my phone at one point, and so I can't do it because I'm not in a position where I can,
Mhm.
but I was lower. So what I did was, I I that you couldn't
Right.
see anything, and then I pulled myself up like I was like a little kid, like looking over, like, hey. It was funny. It was
I
really
like
funny.
it. I like it.
Yeah. So this idea of knowing what you like and how you like to receive information, I really I like to read things because I like to skim it, and I like to listen to things when I'm busy doing other things. But what I find, sometimes I'm challenged with listening, because if somebody says something real, like, if somebody says something and I'm in the middle of doing something else, then I have I'm a documentarist, right? So
Yeah.
if you make a quote that I'm in the middle of, doing something practical, and my hands are full or busy, and then suddenly you say something and I'm like, oh, I want that. Oh, and you've spoken, and I'm trying to catch the train, and now I have to go to the device and rewind. It kind of reminds me of the old cassette tapes, that whole, like, click,
Ka-chunk.
click,
Yeah.
and trying to find it, and that I find frustrating at times.
Mm.
But I think largely the advantage of audio, and you're listening to a former disc jockey. so I'm a big fan of audio. To have people be able to listen and have the sound in the air, in the ether, right? So I can put this on and I could be walking around, not obviously not when I'm doing my own live stream, but when I'm listening, I can listen and I can go over and do something extremely practical. I could be painting, or I could be, typing, or, not something that's maybe demanding mentally, because you're like going to be listening, and the next thing you know, you'll look and you'll see what you've been doing is transcribing instead of doing that thing you were supposed to be doing.
Hmm.
But designing, for example, that's a good use of a multitasking. As you and Chris were talking, I think it was you and Chris that were speaking about that yesterday.
Hmm.
So the idea that I could be designing banners, and the thing, once the mental processes have been established, so I know what colors we're working with, I know what fonts I'm using, I have like basically a template going in my head, then it's just rote work. Then I'm okay making sure the picture goes here, making sure the segment, and then it's a visual exercise, not so taxing on my brain. Then I can
Hmm.
listen to what people are saying, because I will always be stimulated by hearing the new information, and that's by reading it. Then it's easier to go through it and then go back. It's faster to go back with your eyes than it is with your ears.
Mm. Yeah. And I think the thing with this is it's okay to find your own path, your own way, the thing that works for you, as long as you're finding it, as long as you're doing it, rather than just thinking, oh, I'll read a book on Wednesday, I'll read a book at the weekend, I'll do it there. It's finding modes and methods that work for you. I love reading, and but it's dedicating that time, because you do need full attention for reading, don't you? You need to sit with the book, and either on your iPad or the physical book, and everything zones away as you focus on the book, and that's great, and I love that. I do love that. But there's also times where you're stood waiting for a train, or you're sat on a train, or you are at the gym doing a workout, or walking the dog, or whatever those things that are for you dead, what you would call dead space. So Chris mentioned yesterday about being sat in traffic. All of those times where your day is filled with dead space, those are the opportunities where you can find ways of growing, developing, learning, whether that's, I often will have a YouTube video, but I'm not watching it. Do you know what I mean? It's just the sound of the video coming in to my headphones, and it's filling that dead space with something that helps you to be better, helps you to grow, helps you to improve and develop. Because let's face it, this entrepreneurial journey isn't about the business that you make, it's about how good you become as an individual. And the better you become as an individual, the better your business will be as a result.
Exactly.
Mm.
It really is. Life is a journey, and life is profession. I mean, it's development, right? Personal development all the way through, and entrepreneurship, any kind of practice. That's why I talk about this. Also through the research of the book, that I had kind of gone from entrepreneurship being coming out of the science camp, going into the art camp, and then evolved into the spiritual camp. We talked about this, I think, on
Mm.
a little bit, and the idea that it is a personal, it is it's personal development all the way. And
Yeah.
the funny thing is, I was just going through the transcription or editing of Gail's talk with Brandy from Fire
Hmm.
FX, and she actually said entrepreneurship is personal. It's the personal development program you never signed up for, right? Like, it's like will be forced. And I love that, I love that I had that moment where I saw that she said it, because I've been talking about it myself, and that you suddenly, hear, oh, people are seeing it in that same vein, seeing it in that same light.
Hmm.
And to the point of this personal development that we're on as entrepreneurs, it is really a good chance for you to think about where you want to go, because we often do things by default. Like we've just been trained to do things by default. So there are, I think most people will, if they are in between appointments, if they are, waiting on the bus, waiting for the bus, or even just riding the bus or public transportation or being in your car, transportation in general is a great opportunity to actually be transported in your mind, right? You can use that time to use it for personal development. Many people think, oh, I want the space. And I think it's important to have, if you're using the time, for example, to travel, I use public transportation, or I'm using my own feet. I use personal transportation or public transportation. So
Mm.
me or the bike or the public transportation system. And in using that time, there are times where I want to have, a chance to listen to a podcast, a chance to listen, to something on YouTube, a chance to listen to an audiobook, always, like a online course where I'm listening and I'm working, right? I'm using the time to work. But there are other times that I think it's important because of the nature of my brain. I'm packing stuff in all the time. So sometimes I need to be out in life. I need to not have anything in my ears.
I love that you say that. Yeah, I love that you say that because, oftentimes if we say, hey, you could take this opportunity to read more, to listen to more, to watch more, to be more, actually, you can also take that very same dead time to do less, to be less, and to be in the moment more. So
Yeah.
just staring out of the window, looking at the world go by as you're on the train, for example, and being present in that moment, that can have such an enriching experience on you. Because listen, I shared an experience in the train station just last week with Sam in the interview I did earlier, and you look around and everybody is plugged in. Everybody's looking at the phone. Everybody is literally on a different planet, right? They're on this train. We're all on this train together, literally hundreds of us, and everybody is zoned out. Everybody's just like this, you know, in this thing. So how wonderful and refreshing to put that away,
Yes.
close that distraction, and allow yourself to fully experience the moment that you are in right now, whatever that is, and allow the dead space to be space for you to just like be awake and be present and be open.
It's healthy.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
healthy to do it. And
Yeah.
here's the other thing is, I mean, as a designer, you learn, I mean, one of the design principles, you can't just crowd everything in, right? So if you were thinking of a visual design, if I took every element and packed it all in there together, boom, 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 you wouldn't get the sense of design. Good design is balance, right?
Balance, balance,
You have to
balance, balance. I'm going to
you
write that in the comments. Yeah.
you must have the white space, we call it, right?
Yeah.
You can't, it's the same thing. If we take all the letters and we don't have the spacing in the letters, if you don't, Karen, the spacing, you won't be able to read, right? You can't pack things in all the time. You must have a sense of space also, so you can reflect.
Mm.
So people who are thinking, I'm not doing enough, there's not enough hours in the day, I need to, when I wake up, I'm going to be doing all of, my to-do list is 3 days long for one day, and I'm going to be efficient, I'm going to be active, busy, busy all the time. You will burn out. You will actually not be as efficient because you can't, as much information as you take in, you must be able to use that information. Otherwise, you're just clogging your system, in truth, right?
Mm.
Uh,
Absolutely.
and to be able to take in that information, and the idea of using those dead space times, or those, I'm going to call them, pockets of opportunity. The pockets of opportunity. When you're waiting to do something, you're an appointment and somebody's running late, you have a pocket of opportunity. You in I believe you look at how your day is going as to how you use that pocket of opportunity. So in the idea of having some balance, if you've been crowded with information, if you've been really having to you're mentally pressured from all the things that you've been thinking about and having to work on, then use that pocket of opportunity to relax. Use that opportunity to step back and use that opportunity to process. I don't, yeah, this is too much information. But for me, some of my best ideas happen where? In the bathtub. Why? Because I can't do but so much in the bathtub. I mean, there have been times I've had a whole setup, the desk over the bathtub, the I had the iPad and
Mm,
and notes and trying to work, and I'm like, wait a minute, okay, because super dangerous if suddenly you have to jump up, or like you move something and your iPad is in the water, or your book is soaking wet, or you know what I
mm,
mean, or the
I know.
desk slides to the one side. All of these things have happened. So I like to say to my, like, take a minute. I even have refrained from before. I mean, it was entertainment time in the bath, right? So I would go in the bath time and then, put on the music and just like, ooh, or listen to a podcast and just be in, using my time effectively. But
Mm.
then I learned at one point, I'm not sure where it switched for me, but I was like you said, realizing you can't be plugged in all the time. I mean, even when I'm not plugged in, because of the way my mind works, I'm still like, vibrating off of the being plugged in. Like, so grounding oneself, like when I'm really like for days like this week, when when the break comes up at 3, chances are I will, well, not at 3, when I'm finished with the this segment and our forum, then I will most likely go and take a long bath with lots of salt. Do you know about like why you put the salt in the bathtub?
Is that for kind of replenishing, like hydration wise? What is it? No, tell me,
And
tell me.
for grounding, for grounding.
Ah,
It
okay,
helps to ground you, and
okay.
which is good, especially if you've been around a lot of digital stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it helps to ground you, and it's relaxing. Like, so you think of our body is mainly water, right? And salt water at that, because we come from the sea, way, 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 way back. And that is why also when you get something in your eye, you don't want to really splash what, like it's better to put like a saline of salt water, like these salt water drops in your eyes, not regular water, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this whole concept of water, oh wow, now we're into this whole other dimension, which I also love and am fascinated by. This have you ever tried salt therapy? Like, have you, the salt rooms, have they, are they a thing in England or in
Possibly, but I've no experience of them or heard of them.
Okay, well, salt is important, right? In our bodies and everything, and not too much salt, not to drink it or not to eat it, because of course then you're going to have high blood pressure. But this salt therapy that happens in part, like I think in Eastern Europe, and there are places where they have lots of salt deposits, and people have been using it through spa treatments. It's called hydrotherapy, I think. No, that's water therapy.
Mm.
Halto therapy, I think it is HALT or something like that. Halto therapy, I believe it is. And the first time I encountered it was in Vegas last year, and you have salt rooms, and so it helps with your. It's been scientifically proven. It helps with your breathing system. What do you call it? Respiratory system.
Okay.
So you go into that to relax, but they have a room. They pipe in salt. Usually, you're in a kind of these no gravitation chairs
Mm-hmm.
that that you kind of are floating in, and the light is nice and soft. I have a salt lamp in my room now because of that. They have the salt coming in, and it's equivalent of, one of the treatments is equivalent to spending like several days at a beach. That it pipes in so much salt, because People have tried it. You're stressed, you go out, you go to the beach, all that fresh air, all that fresh salty air,
Hmm.
and it helps to ground you. In the same way that if you are also stressed, these are some tips for stressed out entrepreneurs. Now we are in, if you're also really stressed out and you need to counterbalance the computer, you really, it really is an issue because we're surrounded by the computers, and the rays are also right. Even if you're not using the computer with the Wi-Fi, it's always around, right? You're always the ray the I can't get into the scientific properties of all this. I don't even have the vocabulary for it at this point. Um, but you understand what I'm saying? The
Hmm.
that when the Wi-Fi, and so you're surrounded, and we're surrounded by it all the time because everybody wants Wi-Fi. So unless you go out into the country in rural areas where we are not so interconnected, you are going to be walking through an invisible Wi-Fi. You're getting bombed with this digital information,
Hmm.
and it's we are all atoms and vibration too. So this affects us. So to ground yourself, one of the best ways is also being literally connecting yourself to the ground. You go, you take your shoes off, and you stand on the ground. Now, obviously, for those of us who live in areas where it's a little bit chilly, and the ground, I'm not encouraging you to go out and get pneumonia, but I'm just saying that this idea of grounding, especially in the summer, I learned this because I got so sick when I was on the computer way too much, and had to figure out ways to counter this. And so I started looking into it and finding whew, some relief.
Mm.
And it's really a good exercise for resetting yourself. Not a good exercise, it's a good way to reset yourself. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, to take yourself out of the element, take yourself away from the noise and get a chance to be still. Obviously, through meditation you can do that, but I mean physically remove yourself. Like, it's great if you it's important to be able to mentally be able to remove yourself, but that is actually more difficult. It's more difficult to actually deal with the noise inside your head than the noise surrounding you. So, first step, if you have not begun a journey into meditation and thinking, engaged in some of the wellness practices, just physically move yourself. Like, go sit in a quiet space. Um, if you have to go into a bathroom, go to the loo, shut off the light, and sit there for a minute. You know, you don't have to do anything, but just get somewhere where people tend not to bother you if you go into the loo. That's a safe space, right?
Yeah, it's about state change, isn't it? So, I'm sat down right now to get up and move around and dance about a bit, go out and walk the dog, go and have a cold shower, splash your face with water. These are all things that invoke a change in the way that our brains are, the waves in which they're oscillating. So, finding that state change is so important, isn't it? I guess.
It really is.
Mm.
It's also, if you think about, as entrepreneurs, often we are working on the next thing. Often not because we are trying to create the next thing for the world, but the next thing for us in our
Mm.
business
Mm.
and for our clients. And in always working on the edge, it's like I said, the balance, the pendulum swinging, grounding yourself, being also aware that when you are always tipping, right, when you're always out there, you know looking what's there, you have to be able to catch yourself when you're about to fall in, and fall over the edge. And that's one of the reasons why you look into these things, and we have the possibilities. We talked about how great it is, what the opportunities are to have technology, but the technology offers us an opportunity to get to something which is ancient, which is existed forever, and that is a lot of these Eastern ways of living life, of integrating wellness and meditation practices of like even what you do. I want to speak Danish now to you. There we go. Karate. Do you do karate?
I do uh,
Jiu-jitsu?
jujitsu.
Yes. Okay.
Mm.
So karate is Chinese and jiu-jitsu is Korean.
Jiu-jitsu is Japanese. I done
Oh yeah.
Japanese jiu-jitsu, and then actually what I do at the moment is called Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So the
Oh,
Japanese took their jiu-jitsu over to Brazil, and then they developed a different, well, a slightly different kind of variation on it, which is the most popular version of jiu-jitsu today. Is called Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So
okay.
it's Japanese origin, grew up in Brazil, and then spread across the world from there. Right?
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of that, that's a whole different thing. But I don't know if you've ever entertained the idea. This is just what I do. I love to connect and make analogies and metaphors and take things out of context. But I would think it was interesting to take that jujitsu practice, the jujitsu experience, and then how would you interpret that or translate that into entrepreneurship?
Oh,
Because
that is such a interesting question, and one that I play with personally a lot, a lot. So in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, it's about fighting on the ground, right? And so a lot of the times I'm not a big guy, so I'm often fighting guys that are much bigger than me
mhm,
and much stronger than me physically. So physically, I'm at a disadvantage, just like we are in the journey as an entrepreneur, right? We feel like we're fighting against Goliath, and
mhm,
we are David, and it's almost like impossible. In jiu-jitsu, then you end up in the being not in the dominant position, but in the defensive kind of, about to be choked out or about to have your arm broken or something that's, quite impending doom. And so a
yeah,
great lesson in jiu-jitsu, which translates to entrepreneurship, is the sense of being present in the moment and not having an attachment to the outcome. So if you are about to be choked to sleep in jiu-jitsu, if in that moment you go, oh no, I'm about to be choked out, right? If in that moment that's the way that your brain operates, then guess what? You're going to be choked out. You're going to wake up in a daze and not know what's gone on, right?
right,
In that moment, you have to have a calm state of mind with no emotional attachment to the outcome, but you have to objectively weigh up, okay, so I need to defend my collar, I need to make space here. And so you have to approach everything with a very present moment of mind in every split second. So it's almost like a meditation in that sense. But then in entrepreneurship, right, you have to be exactly the same. If you are emotionally attached to how the sales conversation is going to go with this potential client, man, the conversation is going to go rubbish, because rubbish, there's that word again. The conversation is going to be rubbish because you are emotionally attached to the outcome, and you're bringing you into this equation. So just like in jiu-jitsu, when you're about to be choked out and things feel like they're all, impending doom and everything's about to collapse, you have to have this moment of, okay, this is the facts. We can't change the facts. We don't emotionally attach ourselves to the outcome, and we problem solve. So now we need to present with, now we need to do this, now we need to do this, and everything's kind of becomes more, becomes more matter of fact in the moment. And I think there's so much there that you can take into, well, I personally take into the journey of entrepreneurship, not having an oh no, oh no, oh no kind of approach to
yeah,
things, but having that calm. If you look at Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belts, they're just like dun, 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 like so laid back and like chilled and all of that. And it's by having this approach to solving problems that present themselves in the moment.
well, I think this. Okay, now yeah, stimulated an idea. I'm inspired because I think part of what I'm hearing is the reason they're laid back is also there's a quiet confidence because they by the time you're a black belt, you know your stuff, right? So you aren't worried as opposed to if you are beginning the journey, right? And
Mm.
so taking that into doing the work, actually doing the work humbly, doing the work quietly, which is funny because, I'm not that person. I'm not that quiet, humble little flower in the world. I am a yeah, not a delicate flower, definitely not. So, the idea, I can see how that can be to advantage and also to disadvantage. But let's say, for the sake of this exercise, for the sake of this analogy, that you are going through doing, you're trotting along, back to tortoise and hare, trotting along, doing your thing. There is a confidence in knowing that you are good at what you do, regardless of what it is, and that you have done the work, and that that I'm going to be able to get to the finish line, or be able to defend myself against this challenge, or win over this, competitive, my competitive advantage is that I will hustle. My competitive advantage is that I know where my skill set is, I know where my values are. I'm not distracted and confused. And so bring it on. I'm totally calm, because if you attack me, I'm not going to freak out, because I know, I intuitively know.
That's it. And
I,
the thing is, you've been there so many times, so it's not like a like that freezing, frightened kind of moment. It's a yeah, okay, you're not going to get me. I've been here before. I know what I know how this works. I know what you're going to try and do. And there is like I've walked this path so many times, right? Sense of calmness about it, and that translates into how you attack problems in everyday life. And so i guess I guess the lesson there is in that old saying about, you can't, what we've talked about, you can't change the facts, but you can change the label that you attach to those facts.
yes,
And so that is so true, that you literally have a choice. Stephen Covey talks about something very interesting. He talks about the moment between stimulus and response. So something happens and you respond to it. And in between those two things, there is a moment where we can choose, a moment where we get to decide what that response is. So something bad happens and you can kind of go, oh, something bad's happened. The world's about to collapse. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Right, right. Something bad happens and we can kind of go, okay, this isn't a great situation, but let's see what we can do. Let's see how we can, help that person. Let's see how we can put things in place so things don't get worse. Let's see how we can then take that, putting things in place so they don't get worse. I'm doing jujitsu stuff here, right? That's how we can put things in place so things don't get worse. This was me defending a choke,
yes.
and then you can look to make the situation better. But there's in none of that have we gone, oh no. It's all about that calmness of mind and that choice that we all have, no matter what the circumstances. We all have that choice of how we respond.
I think it's funny because when you're saying this, it makes me think of, basically, when the chips are down, like when things really get hard, really difficult, like you walk outside, there's a car crash in front of your head. Clarity for many. I mean, there are the people that, what are we going to do? But I think most people, because they realize, if you think that there is, like, somebody's going to die if you don't act right, you don't have the luxury of being in your own feelings, right? So if you're watching, you've seen the crash, you see the people, your brain goes into, how do we, like the classic, stop, like, stop the bleeding, eliminate the, you if you've been to, like, training for safety, you have to, if there is the car crash, you go out, you make sure, you want to stop any more trouble. So the one thing is, there's a car crash, somebody's laying on the street, that's bad. We need to check out and see what they're doing. But what would be worse is, while they're doing that, then another car comes and runs over them because nobody has stopped the traffic,
Mm.
right? So the one thing is, you have the one thing, but if you don't pay attention, you'll have it will lead to more bad things if you don't think systematically about how do we stop. We make a barrier so nobody can drive down here. We go and we check, can the person be moved? Maybe they can't. You have to establish what the situation is. If
Mm.
they can be moved, then what you do is you move them and get them in a place where they can get help out of harm's way. If that's not the case, then you have to stop everything around it. And that's what we don't do when we're actually working. When we're in our business, we don't see that pending doom until, yeah, if the wolves are right there at the door and you're like, okay, now I better figure it out. uh Often we push it, right? Oh, yeah, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with this. But when push comes to shove, often that maybe that intuitive nature, that our natural response to being able to problem solve comes up, because you have to,
Mm.
right?
Mm. Definitely. And I think what you said there about natural response, I think most of the time what we're fighting is this fear, this fear emotion that drives our actions so much. And so in that situation of the car crash, as an example, excuse me, as an example there, you have this, there's a natural fear that wells up in every situation. Will this kill me? Right? Am I in danger here? And that reaction, that chemical reaction that happens in each and every one of us, drives so much of our actions. And so I think it's all about re kind of configuring that, because oftentimes there isn't a big lion about to, about to kill us, or a saber-toothed tiger about to sink its teeth into us. But we still have that response to everyday things. The car crash is an extreme example, right? But that same fear response comes to me, Laurie, pressing live on Facebook Live. I had a moment, I had a time when I wanted to play with Facebook Lives, and now we're live, we're chatting. I don't care, right? I'm enjoying it. It's fun. But there was a time when I literally, my phone fell then. I literally would be, shaking, about to press that button to go live. And
Yeah,
I physically couldn't get myself to press it. And I would go, do you know what? I'll do it tomorrow.
yeah,
Put the phone down. I'll do it tomorrow.
yeah,
I'm not going to die. Right.
yeah,
And I think that's the thing that we need to be aware of, is that even though we may not be facing life or death, our bodies don't know that. And so
right,
they basically freeze us, and they stop us doing the thing that we want to do, because we think we're going to die. Dr. Chris was on about this yesterday, wasn't he? This very thing, how we're driven by fear without even realizing it. And so I guess that a big part of the battle, if you like, is overcoming that. If we can overcome that, then the possibilities are infinite, aren't they?
exactly. Thinking that, if probably if I went to therapy earlier, I'd be a millionaire by now, right? Like, if because it's all of your stuff. It's all of your stuff that you're dealing with. And everywhere you go, there's a quote also, something about, like, you can't escape. Everywhere you go, you'll be there, right? So you can't go anywhere, right? You will always be there. And even if you don't realize you're there. So I'm saying, even if you try to self medicate, or like, you want to drink your way out of the situation, or drug your way out of it, you're still there. You're still going to
Mm,
have to deal with the consequences. So it really
mm.
isn't an escape, right? It's not the same way. But
Yeah, and you can always love yourself. You can always love yourself.
yeah,
I had a guy in one of my mastermind groups that shared something quite powerful. He said, what was it now? It was basically around the sense of compassion for you, for yourself, compassion to say, look, I'm okay, I'm doing all right, and focusing on the positives, focusing on the things that are amazing about who and what you are as a human being. And it was quite interesting. he got everybody in the mastermind group to pause for a second and take a breath and just look inwards and kind of go, I love you. I love me, right? And have that sense of, allow that sense of self-compassion to just well up inside of you. And there's something quite special about that, because he said that no matter how things are for you on your journey, whatever is facing you in whatever moment you're in, you've always got somebody to give you a hug. You've always got that person to give you a cuddle and give you comfort and love you.
Yes.
And that's not arrogant. That's not, hey, I love myself. There's no narcissism around that. It's just genuine compassion for yourself. And then what a different energy that brings to you, and to the way that you look at other people, the way that you deal with situations like impending doom of being choked out, or a car crash that you happen to walk into, whatever that is. When people are in front of you, you then look at those people entirely differently. You look at those people with compassion, you look at those people with love, and you want to help those people. And that's what we're trying to bring more of into the world with what we do.
Absolutely. Yes.
Mm.
I was going like this because I realized I had a last minute opportunity to join the Dalai Lama's uh, main interpreter throughout the years, created a program with Stanford on compassion. It's a compassion, and the university here, one of the universities here, has established this course of compassion, this certificate. And
Mm-hmm.
I was at the course, and so the idea of compassion for the world. So actually, it was compassion for others, so you're near and dear. So first we focused on having compassion for the people who are around you. Then we focused on compassion for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then we focused on compassion for the world. And the reason I actually spoke with him afterwards, and I mentioned that I thought we should actually have a fourth one, which was compassion for nature and the earth, because with the situation, that if we had compassion for that, we would also walk through the world in another way.
Mm.
And the other thing was, why would you not start with compassion for oneself? Because I mean, if everything emanates from you, like your world, you create your world, we create our worlds. So it is reflected upon us, and from, it is reflected upon us, a lot of how we feel about ourselves. We're looking for confirmation of that. And so when we have that mind that's saying we're not good enough, when people critique, when people say things that are neutral, the sentence is neutral. It's how you accept it's my mother always said this. My mother is a counselor educator, it for well, she just it has been her life work, really. But so I grew up hearing things like, well, oh, I'll come home from school, so and so
Mm.
called me, a hunk of cheese, you know. My sister, somebody in my sister's kindergarten class said that, and I love it so much. It's so neutral, like somebody
I
called
like
me a
that.
hunk of
I
cheese,
like that. Yeah.
and you come home and you're crying, you said I was a hunk of cheese, and my mother's response, whatever it was, well, are you a hunk of cheese? Oh, no. Well, then just because so and so said you were a hunk of cheese, that doesn't make you a hunk of cheese, right? Like, why are you crying about this? Like,
Mm. Mm.
think about it. You have the power. Like, she was always like, you have the power. Think about it. It's not what happens to you. It's not what people say to you. It's how you interpret what they say to you.
Absolutely. It's that
You give
label again, isn't it? It's that
you give them
label.
permission,
Mm.
right? Like, that's the whole thing. Is like, back to also agency. If you are clear, like you talked about, if you're clear about your own value, if you're compassionate, compassion is not narcissism.
Mm.
Compassion is just compassion. If you if you do not have the capabilities to love and be kind to yourself, then how can you be kind and loving to others? Like, you, in truth, you're your best practice, right? You're your best, like, you get, if you can get it right with you can get it right with anybody,
Yeah,
right? So,
absolutely.
and it's not imposing. Like, if you want to be compassionate or you want to love somebody else, they, they're on their journey, and maybe the way you want to love them is not. There's a book also about love languages, how people, like, have you heard of that?
No, not heard of that.
It's about love languages, and I'll go back to it. But so you might love somebody, you might legitimately love somebody and be doing, putting your best work out there to show them that you love them, and they don't hear you, they
Mm.
don't feel you, they don't understand it because it's not their love language. And so you're doing the things that you think, that you're doing what you want people to do for you, right?
Mm.
So if you're a person
Interesting.
who who demonstrates love by giving, like, oh, I want to give you something, I want to share something, I want to surprise you, like the classic thing that, you do that. Oh, it would be so, oh, I would think it was so great if somebody showed up and knew that I was working on this and brought me some dinner. Okay, I'm not saying that, people. Like my neighbors, boom, Lori, I saw you up the screen.
Ding dong.
But like in a case of something that you need, or that you're thinking, oh, I would, if I was watching, if I was watching someone and I knew that they were not having time to cook, then maybe I would do that. And I have,
Mm.
like, I have friends who would do that, and I've done that for people. But that's because you can only use the knowledge that you have, right? You know what you know. And so what you, if I try to, let's make it even maybe a clearer example. You're from Liverpool and I'm from the States, right? And so there are those cross-cultural dilemmas that can occur between, when you, oh, this is the way we do it in our culture, and this is the way we do it in our culture, and that's sometimes where the dilemma comes, because people have different understandings. I have a concrete, actually I have a better example. When I was studying cross cultural communication, there is a book that came out. It's a Swedish book. It's called Cultural Grammar. And I think they haven't come out. I wanted to translate that book into English because I think people need to know this book. Because you think about it, right? You think of culture and you think of language, and we have a grammar with language, but cultural grammar. And
Mm.
so, one of the examples in understanding how cultures differ and how we communicate differently, uh, the Middle Eastern culture integrates smell, and proximity, close proximity. That's a part of the communication system.
Mm.
And in Sweden, the distance, or Scandinavian, the distance is here. Like England, also, if you stand here, you can't see where I am. So if you stand here, you're close. You're within my comfort zone. Like for you, if I went, okay, I know you, but if somebody came and stood this close to you and it wasn't because you were on a crowded train, you would think that is super awkward. Like, why
Yeah.
are you in my zone?
Invading your personal space.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Americans are close. Like Americans will stand closer to each other
Right.
and not be as freaked out about it as somebody from England or somebody from Scandinavia. And back to this model. So, in the cartoon he made to exemplify it, he had someone from the Middle East having a conversation with someone from Sweden, and the person from the Middle East is moving in closer and closer the whole time. And so you're watching this. The Swede is backing up, right, the whole time, because you're in the space, and
Mm.
they're trying to get close enough. They're trying to, like, take it all in. It's not that people are sniffing at you. If you are from the Middle East, you're thinking, what the hell is she talking about? I am, again, not to offend. This is
No, it's
just,
just highlighting differences that exist,
yeah.
right? There's nothing. There's
And
nothing.
it's not a, I'm sniffing you.
Mm.
It's just a part of taking in, like, the sensory, the modalities, right? How people are listening,
Yeah.
and how people take in that information. So, back to this love language idea, or this, how people like to be communicated with, or how people like you to show your attention, right? So you could be listening, and if you're the type, if somebody's the type of person who doesn't think you're listening unless you're looking at them, and you're the type of person who is like, I'm listening with my ears. That's why I have ears. Like, I can listen to you and do other things.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
there, you have to know that that's the situation, so that it's not making anybody wrong. It's just, you know, it's just preferences.
Yep.
And if you know the preferences, then you're able to, for yourself, if you know your own preferences, that you've worked it out, so you can be very clear about what you want, and then you have a chance to get it. And if you are searching and you're aware that most people are not very clear about what they want, and they will say things that they don't mean, not because they're trying to mislead you, but you have to look beyond what the words are, in the same way that we know, like, it's broad public popular knowledge that it's not about what people are saying, right? It's, yeah, I mean, Chris talks about, it's the way you make people feel, but there
Mm.
is that element of, it's not what people say as much. People are not paying attention to what you're saying. They're watching your body. They're looking for the tells. They're not even conscious of it. So consciously, if you ask somebody, okay, you saw this, you saw speaker X and you saw speaker Y, and you liked speaker X more than speaker Y, even though they did the same exact speech, even though they did the same, they were, as a test, you get trained by the same person, but you're two people. And the reason that people like speaker X or speaker not, speaker, the one speaker over the other, is a lot of that unspoken the unspoken aspects, right? The things that we aren't conscious of. It could be, you know what, I completely forgot, but I don't like speaker X because, and I'm not thinking this, consciously. It's
Mm.
unconsciously. I don't like speaker X because he looks like the guy who cut me off in traffic earlier today, right? Like a completely random, like, oh, I don't like I don't like that name because there was a dog that had that name that bit me once upon a time,
Mm.
right? So people have judgment calls that are being, kind of piled up in your brain, in your unconscious mind, from life experiences. And in the same way, if you see somebody who looks like, do you have a sister?
Yes.
Yes. So if you like your sister, and then you meet someone who who reminds you of your sister, chances are, how are you going to feel about them until they prove you wrong, if they prove you wrong, right?
Mm. I think the other thing as well is there is a sense of a lot of people don't appreciate that it's not what you say, it's about the energy. Whenever you speak, there's an energy to that. And the beauty in that is that you have a unique energy in the universe. You are unique in the energy that you bring to the world. So two people can sing the same song and it sounds entirely different, even though they're singing the same notes, because they have a uniqueness to them, to themselves, and we all have that. And this is where utilizing that to your strengths is the essence of finding what makes you unique and giving you what they call like a unique selling proposition or a competitive advantage or whatever that looks like. So that's so powerful. But also on a simpler level, people don't really care about the nuts and bolts, the stuff that you care about. The energy that you pass on in the way that you communicate is what they pick up. It's isn't it something like 90. I can feel a whole segment coming on with this, Laurie. I need to dive in a second, but isn't it about 90% of our communication is non-verbal, and that's
Yeah,
all wrapped up
it's a very
in
high
that,
number.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
high. And it's funny because, just with that speaking, I have, like, in speaker training, so working with someone to help them feel more comfortable, more confident in front of camera or on stage. And I've had people come up to me when I've done speeches and, oh my goodness, I love your energy. I love, I want to, do you, can you train me to be like you? And I'm like, no. And by the way, you don't want to be like me because you can't, and that's not arrogant. That's, you don't want to be like me because the reason I'm able to do me is because it is authentically to me. If you try to do me, you're going to just be a bad copy of me instead of being a great version of you. So, what I like to do is find out what is that secret sauce, what is that unique energy proposition, what is that unique, element in you. Like if you are not bubbly, like I'm known to be bubbly, if you're not bubbly, it will fall. You will fall flat on your face, communicatively speaking, if you attempt to be bubbly, because
Mm.
people know you're not bubbly, right?
Mm.
It reads. If you're quiet and you're relaxed and you are somebody who is more methodical, then you will present like that, and it gives you a whole different power, right? To communicate in your zone of genius in the same way as you do anything in your zone of genius. And that is basically what this segment is basically a call to action. I know Colin has to go, so I'm going to wrap that part up. That it's a call to action to learn about who you are, who you want to be, and the journey that you want to be on to learn it. And we've talked about specific ways that you can do that, uh, in a roundabout way at times and more specific way at other times. So, yeah, we
Mm.
hope that we hope that you are able to see the value in what we're sharing, so that you can go out and make the journey easier for yourself, because you have the choice, you have that agency, and to give you the vehicle or the tools to also give a hand and bring people on the journey in an easier, more relaxed, more natural way as well.
Yeah, because the reality of this is we're all a work in progress. And what we're seeking to do is to be ourselves unashamedly. Find authentic. This is where they say about authenticity. Authenticity is what's true for you. Because when you really uncover what is true and real and authentic for you, nobody else, for you, that's when you are you unashamedly. That's when you present yourself to the world without the mask. I need to be this. I should say this. I should act like that. Forget all of that. You should act how you should act, what's true to you. Who's Be true to yourself. There's all these sayings, isn't there? And you hear them and it's like, oh yeah, I've heard that, but never really understood it in that way. And I guess we're all on this striving journey on the pathway to finding what that authentic version of you is. And when you can put yourself out into the world authentically, whatever that means for you, that's when the magic happens, because you are breaking away, the barriers, you are crashing down the walls, you are taking away the scales, and you are being, you're stripping yourself naked almost, but you are allowing the true you to shine through in whatever it is that you do. That's what we're seeking to do. That's what we're seeking to achieve. That's what we want for you.
That's true. Nice.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you. On that note, Colin's going to pop out, and I'm going to go into another room and start segment, yeah, segment two.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Laurie. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.